Hey guys, welcome to Did You Get That on Film? On this podcast, we deep dive into horror movies, and so it is full of explicit content as well as spoilers. Please be advised. Now, let's get to the show.
This is Did You Get That on Film, where we discuss characters in terrible situations that we never find ourselves in. I am DP, and with me is my co-host, someone I can trust to not peddle stolen merchandise, my girl Ruth.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, where did it come from?
Why are you asking? You know it's stolen.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves because we are talking about child's play.
Child's play. So,
Let's get into it.
let's get into it. Yes, so today we're discussing Child's Play. This is the very first Chucky movie. So this is Child's Play. It was released in 1988, the one that started it all. Don Mancini is the story writer and screenplay writer of this movie, but he also wrote all of the other films in the Child's Play series. So this movie has 7 Child's Play movies, and that's including Bride of Chucky, Seed of Chucky, Cult of Chucky. It also has one 2019 remake, which he was not a part of. And it has a TV show that is actually running right now. So I think it started in 2021. It's on its 3rd season. It seems to be very, very popular. I haven't watched it, but Don Mancini is actually writing that too. So it is the original Chucky creator that's making the show. So that's probably why it's so popular. So for this movie, just this first one, he did have a couple of co-writers. So Tom Holland, who is actually also the director of this movie, and John Lafia. I hope I'm saying that right. After this one, I think Don Mancini would go on to direct the other movies, and then he was an executive producer on Bride of Chucky as well. Yeah. Let's get into the actual story. The movie opens up with a chase scene / shootout, and this is between 2 characters that we're going to learn are Detective Mike Norris and Charles Lee Ray, who is a serial killer known as the Lakeshore Strangler. But he's also Sheriff Brackett in Rob Zombie's Halloween franchises.
People have lives outside of their work.
Right. We love a serial killer sheriff combo.
You ain't like people can't have a family.
Like he can't have hobbies.
He has a life. They're in the Midwest, right? They're in Chicago.
They're in Chicago, yes. So this movie is taking place in Chicago. Mm-hmm.
Okay. There's nothing to go from Haddonfield, Illinois to Chicago, Illinois.
That's nothing.
That's easy.
That's a quick drive, yeah.
That's a hop. I think they got a train that do something.
Yeah,
take the commuter.
A train that'll just run right in between. Yeah. So as they're running, Charles Lee Ray is shot in the leg and he falls down, and he's actually running towards his getaway driver, Eddie. But Eddie says fuck that and just like dips on Charles Lee Ray. Straight up like sprays gravel in his face.
He doesn't just dip. Okay, in Eddie's defense, Charles Lee Ray was done for. He was caught, he was getting chased, and then he was running to the car screaming, letting them know that he's the getaway car. And then the police siren comes. So Eddie's like, well, I gotta save myself. There's no honor amongst thieves. So I gotta go. Right?
And go he did.
And to be fair, him not getting in that truck actually helped him because the police started to chase the truck.
That's true. And Eddie actually ends up getting arrested anyway.
Right. So, I mean...
But some might argue that Charles Lee Ray's fate was worse, right?
I mean, well, Charles Lee Ray has 7 movies and a TV show, so is it really worse?
And Another Family in Haddonfield.
Doesn't have to feel like, come on.
So, as Eddie is peeling out, spraying gravel in Charles's face as he's speeding away, Charles Lee recognizes that he's running out of options. But instead of being caught and seeking the medical attention that he desperately needs in this moment, he decides that he's going to break into a toy store because for some reason that's a good idea to him. Detective Norris is hot on his heels, and he ends up following him inside. And as he runs through the door, he's met with a wall of Good Guy doll toys, which is like the hottest toy on the market right now. Have you ever seen Jingle All the Way?
Yeah, Turbo Man.
It's this universe's Turbo Man. It's a huge deal.
I've had it up to here with Turbo Man. But I have to hear one more thing about Turbo Man.
That movie is so good.
Put that cookie down! All these cookies! Please tell us that y'all want us to do that movie so we can do it, please.
So, yes, anybody that's listening, please, we are like dying for feedback because what we really want to do, our dream is to make a Patreon where we do like alternate movies. So things like Jingle All the Way, and we really want to cover those movies. So please just let us know.
Will you listen to us talk about Jingle All the Way, which is the best holiday movie? It has everything you want. Arnold Schwarzenegger, cookies, Sinbad.
It's a classic. So back to this movie.
So back to these toys.
I know, right? So the Good Guy doll. So Detective Norris follows him inside, sees the Good Guy doll, and so while they're in the store, the gunfight continues. Charles Lee Ray, they call him the Lakeshore Strangler. He's obviously not a good shot because he's getting fucked up in here, and he gets shot in the chest. And this wound is definitely going to kill him.
He's over.
And he knows that, too, because he touches his chest and he's like, fuck, I'm dying. It's like, yeah, bro, you're going to die. So, but instead, again, here, he's not dead yet. Instead of getting caught and being taken to a hospital, which he desperately needs, he doesn't stop. He doesn't give up. He doesn't surrender. He doesn't wave the right flag. He doesn't like make peace with God. He decides to take this opportunity to use this last bit of life in him to vow that he's going to get Detective Norris and he's going to get Eddie no matter what. So after he collapses into this display of Good Guy dolls, talk about a twist. This country-ass serial killer, he knows voodoo. That's something that in the 80s, they were like, yeah, this works. He knows voodoo. So he starts doing this voodoo spell, and he begins chanting. It's loud and crazy, and he's transferring his soul into one of the Good Guy dolls. As he's doing this, there's a huge storm brewing outside, lightning. It ends up striking the toy store. And for some reason, the toy store explodes. Kaboom. I mean, like, it's demolished. I don't know why that happened, but it did. Damaging all the toys. Somehow, Detective Norris is pretty unscathed. He gets up and just walks it off. But he ends up finding Charles Lee Ray's lifeless corpse, and it is laying next to a Good Guy doll. So that was the wild, crazy 80s opening of this horror film. We are now cutting to a child, and we're going to learn that this child is Andy, and it's his birthday. And Andy loves the Good Guy doll. He's dressed in his Good Guy doll pajamas, and he's watching his Good Guy doll cartoons, and he's making a fucking mess with Good Guy doll cereal. And they had this really I know that European listeners might find this wild, but do you remember, like, this is a very 80s and 90s thing. He's already eating the cereal that's obviously made with sugar, but then they have like a sugar bowl and he takes like 4 tablespoons of extra sugar and puts it on top of the cereal. And I was like, we were so wild for that growing up. Putting cold, hard Domino sugar on top of stuff.
You didn't put it on your cornflakes?
It was a necessity that you put it on your cornflakes. Otherwise, that shit was gross.
Because why y'all didn't buy Frosted Flakes?
Why didn't you buy Frosted Flakes? But that was like the solution, right? Just get a bowl of pure fucking sugar and leave it on the kitchen table. But if anything, we added more sugar to the cornflakes than probably what would have been on the Frosted Flakes.
I added sugar to the Frosted Flakes at that time too.
I know. Like, who are we kidding? Any cereal that touched down on the table in front of me, I was going to put extra sugar on top. Because that was fun. That was the razzle dazzle. Well,
anyway.
I know, right?
This is really going off the
I know, this is going off the rails. So after Andy is done dumping a cup of sugar on the cereal, he throws some burnt toast on a tray and then a cup and a half of butter on top of it. And he brings this sloppy ass, nasty ass tray of bullshit to his mom, Karen, at 6:30 in the fucking morning. And this is supposed to be her breakfast in bed. He's spilling milk and juices all over the floor. Not only is she being woken up at 6:30 to this tray of slop, she's gonna have to clean up after it. I was like, this is why I don't have children. This is why I'm not a mother.
But once she saw him, she smiled. She liked that. She was like, "Oh, look at my kid made me breakfast in bed on his birthday."
Yeah, she did smile, and I have in my notes bullshit. There's no fucking way that you wouldn't be irritated by getting it was a tray of sloppy wet butter sugar burnt bread.
Andy is a cute kid, and she was like, "Oh, look at my cute little kid making me cereal."
He is very cute, but as he's making this messy ass, soggy ass, sloppy ass breakfast, he sees a commercial that's advertising the Good Guy dolls. And the Good Guy doll, it's like a 3-foot tall doll that it talks, its head can move, so it can like look at you, its eyes can blink, and this was like really cutting edge for 1988. So I'm sure he did want that fucking doll. So he looks over at his presents and he just knows that he's about to get a Good Guy doll because there's this 3-foot tall box and it's wrapped in Good Guy doll wrapping paper. And so he's super excited. He opens the big ass box first. And in his mom's defense, she did say, "Do you want to open the little box first?" And he was like, no, because he knew he was getting that doll. Well, spoiler alert, it's not a Good Guy doll. Andy has every right to be upset because this 3-foot tall Good Guy doll shaped box is filled with clothes, not even clothes that fit. She was like, we're gonna have to take them up a couple of inches.
You have to take kids' clothes and
I know. I know. But I was like, if I was Andy, I would be disgusted. Bitch, they're not, first of all, they're not cute. Second of all, why did you put them in this ridiculously shaped box? That didn't make any sense. Put them in a bag. They're clothes. So Andy's disgust is palpable. The way that he's looking at her, he's pissed. And so she was like, well, why don't you open the second present? He's gonna open it because it's a present, but he knows it's not a Good Guy doll, so he's kind of irritable. It's a Good Guy doll tool set. And even I was rolling my eyes. As soon as he looks at it, he's like, this stupid bitch. He said, I want a Good Guy doll to go with it. So,
please note that he did not say "you stupid bitch" to his mother. He simply said, I
want a Good Guy doll to go with it. That part he did say.
We can tell in this conversation who's an only child and who isn't. Can't we, guys?
It's not. I
Can't we
mean,
all?
I didn't get everything I wanted growing up, but I would have. Okay, we'll discuss it more because the what we learn here is that Karen is just a single mom who works 2 jobs, who loves her kids and never stops.
Who loves her kid and
With
with a gentle
hands in the
heart and
heart
a hell of
of
a
a
fighter.
fighter. I'm a survivor. So she's doing her Reba McEntire thing.
She doesn't work 2 jobs though.
She doesn't. She just works that jewelry counter at Macy's.
And she barely works there. Because she's just taking breaks wherever the hell she wants to.
Stop. You sound like her funky ass boss, Mr. Criswell, who I was praying would get his comeuppance.
Get to him so we
I know, yeah, we need to get to him.
Yeah,
So
we gotta get on him.
his funky ass. So Karen is a widow. So Andy's father has died. They don't say why in the movie, but in a deleted scene that I was reading about, he died in a car accident just like a few months earlier. So Andy is still dealing with the death of his father, so that'll kind of come up later, those feelings. And, Karen is still trying to adjust to being a Reba McEntire. She reveals that she cannot afford a good guy doll. So Andy is left feeling sad, and I know that Karen must feel like a piece of shit. So next we cut to Karen at her job at the Macy's jewelry counter, and she has a coworker and a best friend named Maggie who comes rushing up to her, and she tells her, this is so crazy. She tells her that there's a peddler in the alley behind the mall, and he has, you'll never guess, a good guy doll. And she's like, maybe you can get a deal. So it's at this point that we learn that the retail price of this fucking good guy doll, Dante, it was $100 in 1988. I had to do the math. In 2023, that doll is
$240.
Dante. Andy's tripping. That price is absurd. I know, because at first I was like, well, damn, Karen, how hard are things?
Well, Karen just buried her husband. Like, damn. Can somebody please cut her a break? She loves her kids and she never stopped.
She's a survivor. But $260, I was like, damn, Andy would have had to wait. Andy, if you get this for your birthday, Christmas is not coming this year, because that's a lot of money for a doll.
But, like you said, that doll is 3 foot.
The doll is 3 feet, but I had a 3-foot tall Barbie when I was younger, and she was not 260. I actually have no idea how much she cost because
Did she talk?
No, she didn't talk.
Did she run out of a vendetta against her killer and her accomplice?
And didn't even need batteries to do it? No.
Right.
Well, $260. So Karen is able to get from this toothless peddler. I'm not trying to be mean, but he's an asshole, so it's okay. She's able to get the doll from him for $30, which is still about like $78. So it wasn't cheap, but it's a lot better than $260. And she's super excited because it's definitely the good guy doll. It's in a box, lightly worn. So, of course, you guys, spoiler, this is the good guy doll that contains the soul of the serial killer Charles Lee Ray, aka Chucky.
And that's why she should have let Maggie keep haggling down to $10.
Haggling. She didn't let Maggie haggle. She was just like, she was going to pay $50. Maggie was like, ho. It was stolen.
It was a stolen doll.
Right. His return on investment would have been wild. Like, Karen. So next, Karen is coming back from buying this doll. She's on cloud 9, but then she runs into her funky ass dickhole boss, Mr. Criswell. He is the definition of a schmuck. Like, if you look up a schmuck in the dictionary, he has that fucking tie on. I hated this man.
He's a middleman and just taking that stuff too far, man.
Because he doesn't have any power anywhere but here at the Macy's jewelry counter. Yeah, I could buy that. So he is waiting to one, not only tell Karen that, remind her this is not a scheduled break, but he also tells her that someone called out sick that day for like the night shift and that Karen's going to have to work a double on her son's birthday. Maggie offers to cover for Karen, but Criswell rejects that because he's like, well, Maggie, you work in shoes. And I'm like, what is the fucking difference? Like, just let her sell the fucking costume jewelry. But Karen tries to reason with him, and he pulls a, are you happy with your job? Bullshit. And I was just like, God, Chucky's right there. Can he not just like animate right now and give this bitch his comeuppance? But he doesn't. Missed opportunity.
That happens all the time. You have to just
Yes.
cover, and they're just like, drop everything. And then when you're like, no, they're like, well, if you can't do it, then I guess you'll have to find another job. Like it's always like all or nothing. It's very
Right.
intense all the time. And you're just thinking like, he tells her she can leave at 5 to pick up her kid, but she has to come back at 7. And it's like, how much longer are y'all going to be open after 7?
That was my thing. The entire night, I'm like, it's the jewelry counter at Macy's. Like, she doesn't even her closing duties can't even be that much. When I worked at TJ Maxx, the jewelry people were out like first because there's not shit to that. It's not like you're picking up stuff off the floor. It's 7. How late could the place
It's self-esteem,
close?
maybe.
I know. Ugh.
I'm assuming like, okay, maybe like 9:30, but I was just like, I wonder if she come back at 7, can't somebody just cover? Couldn't he just be there for 2 hours? No, he has
Well,
to walk
couldn't
around
Maggie
and remind people
just?
he's a manager. How much jewelry is being bought between 7 and 9?
It can't really be that much because right now it's like prime time and nobody's at this fucking counter. Y'all are standing here having a 20-minute conversation. So they come to the conclusion that Karen can pick up Andy from daycare, give him his present, maybe sit down for 2 minutes, and then she's got to be back at work. But that Maggie is going to babysit Andy that night. So when Karen and Andy get home, she gives Andy the good guy doll, and he is elated. And he takes it all out of the box. And I was like, this should have been a tip off, in my opinion, because he just takes it all out of the box. And you know how sometimes you have to like pull that thing, the piece of plastic in the battery part to like make it start working? They don't have to do anything. He literally just takes him out of the box and he's like, hey, doll, my name's Andy. And the doll's immediately like, hi, my name's Chucky. Tidy ho.
I just really had like no idea how big that doll was.
The doll is big.
Every time I saw Chucky, I was like, "Dang, that's a big doll." I always imagined it being small. In the later movies, do he shrink?
You know
Is he
what?
smaller?
That's such a good point. That's such a good point. Because he seems pretty small in Bride of Chucky, right?
Right, they seem like small dolls.
Right. That's a really good question. I'm gonna have to like Google that.
In this movie, I was like, "Dang, that doll is almost as big as Andy."
No, literally, because as Andy's walking with it, I mean, the way he has to carry it, the doll is practically dragging the ground, and he's like trying to hold it up above his head. Like the doll is huge.
It's a huge doll.
It's a huge doll. That's such a good point. I'm gonna like go watch that again. I need to see because yeah, you're right. So and I thought I had to laugh at this part because I thought it was super funny that Charles Lee Ray like memorized the good guy doll script. Like, didn't you think that was crazy? Like, did he was like, damn, I'm gonna have to
He was
play
like,
this right when somebody buys me.
"What's his lines again?" Well, he did remember that voodoo check while bleeding out in the heart. So I mean,
Right. I mean,
to me, it's like that's far fetched. He'd be like, "Yeah, let me pick up these little lines real quick."
just real quick. And he really sells it too.
How much time has passed?
So I was reading the course of the entire film takes place over 3 days.
3?
It's
What's it? Spring?
3. I looked it up. No, right? Yes, I looked it up. So I didn't look it up specifically, but I was reading trivia about the movie, and that was one of the things is that it takes place over like 3 days. So I think that there was the explosion that night. The next morning, like that guy got the doll that night. Like as they're wheeling out Charles
Has
Lee Ray's body, he's taking the doll, and then the next day he sells it to
okay.
what's her face in the
Hold on.
alley behind her
Okay.
job.
All right. Makes sense.
So cut to that night while Andy is playing with Chucky, who is probably like he's playing with his tools with Chucky, and I know that Charles Lee Ray is probably dying inside because he's probably like, I fucking cannot stand this kid 1 minute longer. They're playing tools and shit. So the news comes on, and Chucky turns his head and watches the TV, and Maggie doesn't notice, but Andy's too much of a kid to realize just how crazy it is that this doll turned his head to watch the news. But the news coverage reveals that Chucky's old accomplice, Eddie, who sped off and shot the gravel in his face as he was shot on the street, he got arrested anyway, but now he's escaped from jail. So the news report says that there'll be more coverage on that story at 9. So now Maggie's telling Andy that it's time to go to bed, but Chucky is like, hey, Andy, I gotta tell you something. And Chucky whispers in Andy's ear, and he asks Maggie to allow Chucky to watch the 9 p.m. news. And Maggie was like, if you don't take your ass to bed, you and that fucking doll. And she grabs Chucky and she's like really manhandling him. And I know he, like, in that moment, he was like, I think I'm gonna kill this bitch.
But this how silly I am. I would have been like, okay, so I would have left the dog watching the news, and I would have just had Andy in bed. Like, okay,
Dante, yeah, I was like, what's the harm in letting the doll watch the news? I was like, I definitely would have let the dolls watch the news, but I think that we're looking at it from a lens of like, we know that dolls can kill people.
because when he said Kentucky watch the news, I would just been like, okay, well, you have to go to bed.
But
And
yeah,
he'd be like,
sure.
that's okay, Aunt Maggie.
God, and it sucks because Andy's such a sweet kid.
He's such a nice little kid, and
I know. It sucks that he gets framed for murder.
for multiple murders.
I know. Oh, Andy. It's funny because I'm saying that Chucky whispers in Andy's ear because we know what we know, but they don't ever actually show you Chucky talking. They just show you him, like Andy is always just putting his ear up to Chucky's mouth. You don't see Chucky speak. Actually, until about like 45 minutes into the movie, you don't actually see Chucky talk. So, you know, there's a slight chance that Andy could be crazy. And I was going to say this was like a part of the fun facts, but we can talk about it now since it's coming up. In the original script, Don Mancini, the writer, he in an interview he stated that he really toyed with the idea of keeping the audience in the dark a bit longer, really making them wonder if Andy was actually the killer rather than Chucky. He obviously doesn't end up using that idea because I really kind of don't see how that would be possible. He ends up using that in a film, like in one of the 90s films, but I guess the idea would be that maybe Chucky would be making Andy do these things. Like maybe Chucky himself was not able to kill, but could make Andy kill people because it's like that idea doesn't really work if we have the knowledge that Charles Lee Ray put himself in Chucky's body, right? So
Right.
we know that this good guy doll is corrupted. But yeah, that was a part of the original script.
That happened too fast for my taste.
Yeah.
I guess at the end it was sad, but like for me, I was just like that scene should have been a flashback after the cop was talking to the mom. But we can go into that later.
Yes, because we'll talk about that when we get there, because I think that's a really good idea. So yeah, the idea, because you can tell throughout the film that they do try.
They're trying to make it
Right, make it seem like it could be Andy, like maybe, but that doesn't make sense to me. It couldn't make sense. That doesn't work with this story.
We already saw you titties. Just take off your drawers.
Exactly. That's it exactly, Dante. So Maggie, who is not having it, she turns off the TV, takes Andy. She's like, get your ass in the bed right now. But she roughly takes Chucky with him. And she's like, well, go brush your teeth and go to bed. And you need to listen to me because I'm the adult. Do what I say. So while Andy is brushing his teeth, we see, so this is all from, things are shot kind of from Chucky's point of view, but they're done in a way where it's like it could be Andy. We know it's not, but they definitely shot it that way. Chucky ends up making his way into the living room and he turns on the TV, and Maggie is super irritated because kids can really bring that out of you. I'm sorry, I know that you have a niece. I don't mean to speak ill of children. She's cute though. So Chucky is sitting there in front of the TV and he's watching the news about Eddie. But just like as soon as it comes on and they're talking about him, she cuts the TV off, snatches Chucky up, and she really believes that Andy put Chucky in front of the TV. Andy was like, bitch, I've been brushing my teeth this whole time. He's adamant that he did not do this. And he's actually like teetering on the edge of alarm, but Maggie just isn't trying to hear that. So while she ends up putting them to bed, you can almost feel the anger radiating off of Chucky because he's pissed because he was trying to watch the news. So he's like, I'm definitely going to kill this bitch, right?
It's such a short segment. The news always just 30 minutes.
Right.
So it's like, he probably got like a good 2 or 3 minutes. It was probably the top story, so it probably went away with
it. They just started talking about it. He only needed a little bit more information, and she snatched him up. He's in a bad mood, sour puss as fuck right now. So this is all setting up Chucky's first on-screen kill. This is our first time really seeing like Chucky in action, although we technically aren't seeing Chucky. It's all shot from his POV. You see Andy's bedroom door open, and you see someone sneak out of Andy's room, run down the hall, and then Chucky just starts kind of fucking with Maggie. So he's like moving chairs around, opening doors. He knocked flour all over the floor, just really making a racket. And so she's starting to get nervous and she's a little spooked, but just then Karen calls from work, which I'm like, damn, that was the 9 o'clock news. Andy's already asleep. She's like watching a movie. When the fuck is Karen getting home? So this is absurd. But Maggie answers the phone and she's talking to her and she's just trying to convince herself that she's just having she calls it the alone at night willies.
Who calls it that?
Who calls it that? It's like, you're silly. This is silly.
That's so 80s. I don't know, that's the most 80s thing I heard.
Because who's saying willies? Right? She lets her guard down at this point. So then she is going to clean up this flour. And then she turns around and it's so funny because I didn't realize it at first until they're making fun of it later. Chucky hits her in the face with the little hammer from the Good Guy Dolls tool set. And I was like, damn, are they giving kids real hammers? He knocks the fuck out of her.
But how? Is he a doll? Explain this. Is he a doll with human man strength?
Dante, I wondered the same thing throughout this entire fucking film. I needed answers. It's hard because everybody's touching Chucky, right? They pick him up, they throw him around like he's just a piece of plastic. They say
ragdoll.
Right. They really do ragdoll him a lot. The way they yank him by his arm in this movie. But then it's like we get situations like this where he cracks Maggie in her face. There's times where they're trying to hold a door to keep him out, and it's grown men like breaking a sweat trying to keep this doll from getting. I'm very confused about that because.
I'm thinking it has to be that. It has to be that he has human strength.
But how can you have the human strength but still be so light and like ragdolly? I just didn't get it. But that's the only way to explain
It's a
it.
movie. It's a movie. It's a movie.
That's the only way to explain it because in my head I was thinking that it would. Because imagine a 3-foot plastic doll hitting you. You'd be like, "What the fuck?" You'd be like, "Ow!"
But why did she fall so hard?
Okay, he hits her in the head, but that's not what kills Maggie. He's able to hit her so hard, apparently, that she stumbles back, Dante, no less than 8 feet. She's stumbling back through this kitchen, and she crashes through the kitchen window out of
Do you
the
think
6th.
he was like, "Give me the power, I beg of you," and then just a gust of like wind came, something like
Stop!
nigga
He
was
like
dead.
held the hammer up to the sky, and God's like lightning power. I don't even think. But realistically, I don't even think a grown adult male could have hit her hard enough for her to stumble back the 10 feet that it took for her to like fall out the 6th-story window.
I was like, is this the demon that killed Prue? Like, why did she go through that wall?
Why did she crash through? It didn't make any sense. There's no amount of force that this doll.
She was like, ah.
Right, and then she burst. It's like she like put her hands together and dove through this window. I couldn't believe it.
It's like I was like, she fell 8 feet. Oh man, 8 stories. I mean, not 8 stories.
Well, it took her 8
8
feet of
stories.
stumbling backwards to get through this window. But it's so funny
The window
because
and then she fell 8 stories.
right. So I thought this was funny because it definitely looks like it. So that shot was achieved by having, it's an actress that initially, I think she's like on harnesses and she does initially go out the window, but then it's a concrete dummy. And I was like, it looks like a concrete dummy, the way that it plummets to the ground. She lands on top of this car and smashes it to smithereens. And that's how Maggie dies. And she was just trying to do a favor for her single mom who works 2 jobs friend. And now she's dead.
How boss should feel terrible.
He should feel terrible. But I guess in his mind, he's probably like, well, I'd rather lose somebody in shoes than jewelry, because apparently working at the jewelry counter just is something you need a very special set of skills to do. I made a note that when we're looking back on this scene, we're looking at it with the hindsight of like, we know that Charles Lee Ray has possessed this doll, but at no point thus far is the movie actually showing us that Chucky is Maggie's attacker. So theoretically, it could have been Andy, and that is what the police believe. So Karen is just getting home from work and she sees this huge police presence outside her house. And she rushes up to her apartment. And I was like, it's such a poorly contained crime scene. Did you see that police officer that was like reading her newspaper and had his feet on her coffee table? I was like, I would have had a fit.
In their defense, they're probably just all there collecting overtime. And
I know, right?
And also just like, well, what do you want us to do? Like, she's outside.
I know she's on the ground. There's nothing, there's nothing more
truck.
we can do.
There's no like, it's not an active crime scene. The kid is the only person there.
Right. So they're
how
like,
could they
closed.
think the kid is the killer?
I have a really, really hard time believing that. So let's walk through it. So She is wandering around totally unchecked in this crime scene, and she's looking for Andy. She finds Andy in his room with Detective Norris, who is the homicide detective that we met earlier in the chase scene with Charles Lee Ray. And Detective Norris informs Karen that Maggie is dead, and he shows her that on the countertop there's some tiny footprints. And the footprints match the good guy sneaker print on Andy's good guy doll pajamas. So Detective Norris has come to the conclusion that Andy must have killed Maggie, which I find very stupid because I don't think it's feasible, but maybe. But then I'm like, just because his footprints are on the counter, I don't see how that equals homicide. I feel like he could have climbed up there for anything to see after the fact. I don't know why he jumps to this conclusion. He really sticks to this idea that Andy must be a child killer for a long time in this movie.
But you wouldn't think she just killed herself?
Well, he takes the hammer because we see him give it to his buddy cop partner later. He tells him this is a murder weapon. So I'm assuming that there must be blood on that hammer. I can only assume. They don't say that, but I have to assume there's blood on the hammer. And that's why he's come to the determination that this must have been a murder. Because I was like, without that hammer, my immediate thought would be she tripped, fell. I don't know. I wouldn't think that the kid killed her, though.
Like a freak accident.
Yeah, like a freak accident. But no, he's like, this kid killed her. So Karen's not having it. And she's like,
Rightfully
get
so.
your shit and get out. Yes. Because then Detective Norris starts examining Andy's footprints. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Get out of here.
Chill out, dude.
Right. So as Andy is getting back into bed, he props his Chucky doll up in a chair. And that's when he notices that Chucky's feet are covered in flour. And Andy has more sense than most of the people in this movie. He immediately gets up and he runs to tell his mom and Detective Norris that it was in fact Chucky that was on the counter. Karen says, shut the hell up with that foolishness, and sends it back to bed because Karen is like, I'm doing my best to keep you out of a juvenile detention facility right now. Because Andy obviously doesn't understand the right to remain silent. So she is trying to protect him in this moment. But it only serves to make Andy feel a little more alienated because nobody believes him anytime he says anything about Chucky. So after everyone leaves, Karen hears Andy in his room talking to Chucky, which in movies is always a bad sign. And Andy reveals that Chucky has also been talking back to him, also a bad sign in movies. And he tells his mom that Chucky has told him that his real name is Charles Lee Ray and that he was sent down from heaven by Andy's dad to play with him. And he also tells Karen that Chucky said that Aunt Maggie.
And Maggie is a bitch. She got what she deserved.
And I was like, Charles Lee Ray is diabolical, right? Like, why would you tell this child something so foul? Karen is understandably upset by this.
Shocked.
She's shook. And despite Andy's insistence that Chucky is alive, she in this moment is just like, oh my God, my kid's a sociopath. Because that was wild. So Andy is feeling isolated, and Chucky warned him that nobody would believe him, and Chucky is right. So he just kind of gives up at this point. So we cut to the next day, and Karen is dropping Andy off at school. As soon as Karen leaves, Chucky convinces Andy to skip school and take the train downtown to find his old accomplice, Eddie. we just have to assume that this happens because we, again, don't see Chucky tell him this. So Chucky is, throughout this entire trip, on a train, which at no point is anybody like, hey, there's a 6-year-old traveling the streets of Chicago. Andy is holding
With a
Chucky
giant
up.
doll.
The doll's really big. But I don't know if you noticed, when he was going into school, there was another kid with a good guy doll. A
Yeah,
normal
but he
one.
was a normal sized kid. Andy's a small kid.
He's
Andy's so small
tiny.
that the doll, maybe it's that, because the other kid just looked like he was normal too. Like he was like a normal size, so the doll didn't look as big. But I still am under the impression that with the second movie and beyond, they shrank the doll. I still think that.
I'm just thinking about it. Yeah. In my mind, I haven't seen them in a while, but in my mind, he's not that. He looks so huge, especially next to Andy. Ridiculous. When Andy and Chucky arrive at this dilapidated house where Eddie is squatting, Andy sits Chucky down on a chair that he can go find somewhere to pee. And this is setting
The
up
tinkle.
the. I know. He's such a sweet kid. Chucky's really railroading him. He has to go tinkle, so
I
he leaves
know.
Chucky on this chair. He's such a horrible piece of shit person. But this is setting up the second on-screen kill of the movie. So Chucky takes this opportunity to sneak into Eddie's very rat-infested home to kill him. And you see Chucky's tiny doll hand turn on all the gas on the stove. And I was like, this was so silly looking to me. I know that this is supposed to be scary. It's very silly looking, but Eddie starts hearing a lot of noises throughout the house, and he's already very paranoid because he's escaped jail. So he starts wandering around the house, shooting, and this is causing Andy to come looking for Chucky. And I was like, wow, Andy's such a ride or die for this Chucky doll because he's hearing active
And
shooting.
he's like, hey, what a wonderful time of the day.
Right. He's just like, I need to go get my best pal, Chucky. So he's shooting around, and
Meanwhile, I would have been.
but I was like, man, we could all use a friend like Andy because Eddie shot gravel in his friend's face as he was speeding off as he was lying on the floor bleeding. But Eddie, hearing these noises, he bursts into the kitchen and he fires a shot. And this causes a huge gas explosion that just demolishes the entire house. I don't even know how Andy survived being in close proximity. It's such a huge explosion.
And they make sure to show you that the entire house is gone.
They do. They kind of pull
house,
out and show you, yeah, the entire thing. It's not like it just blew up the kitchen. The house is blown to smithereens.
They had fun with that shot.
They did. They probably couldn't wait to blow up something.
Right.
Because it was totally unnecessary to blow up this house. But next we cut to Karen, and she is arriving at the police station. She's meeting with Detective Norris, who of course believes that Andy is responsible. I can't understand the leap here, how he could assume that Andy must be responsible. I have to assume that Andy just kind of fucking waited around for the police to come. But we see Andy being interviewed by a police officer, which is, like, illegal. But Karen walks in with Detective Norris, and she tells Andy, look, nobody believes you about Chucky, and that unless you start telling the truth, they're going to take you away from me. And this has caused Andy to flip out on Chucky. And he just starts beating him. And he's yelling at him to tell them something. They are going to take me away. You lied to me. And Chucky, knowing that it's a person, is really buffooning, right? Because he just looks over and he's like, hi, I'm Chucky, hidey ho. And everybody is like, God, this kid is nuts. And so that's when a doctor from a psychiatric hospital jumps in, and he's like, I think Andy should go ahead and come with us.
I thought that was intense. Do they really think Andy blew up the house?
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand this leap in logic. You don't even know how this happened. Eddie was squatting in an abandoned house. It could have been an explosion for any number of reasons. I don't understand how you immediately believe this kid killed this random stranger.
That was very strange to me. That was just very weird. I was like, okay, well, I just went along.
Right.
With it because at this point I was looking at the movie. It's like has like 40 minutes left, if that.
Right. Right. So later that night at home, Karen is starting to become suspicious of Chucky. And she goes over and she's looking at his box. I mean, I guess like trying to figure out what features of this doll might turn your kid into a homicidal maniac. But it's as she's looking at this box, she's turning it around and tumbling out onto the floor are the fucking batteries.
I would have left.
She like the music kicks up. In that moment, Karen is shook. I would have been like, oh shit. Because then Chucky's just sitting there, of course, pretending. So she slowly walks over and she inspects Chucky. She lifts up his shirt on the back and she looks at the battery compartment, and it, of course, is fucking empty. And so in that moment, she realizes that this entire time, Chucky has been speaking, moving, all of this without any batteries. And I was like, Charles Lee Ray didn't think that part through. So as soon as she checks the doll and confirms that there's no batteries, she flips out. And she starts demanding that Chucky speak to her, or she's going to throw him into the fireplace. And at this point, Chucky realizes the jig is up, right?
I had a good run.
It's so
I had a good run.
Right. He was like, oh, well, you win some, you lose some. He violently comes alive and he starts calling her a stupid bitch, a filthy slut. I mean, he's like, I'm going to kill you, bitch.
I can't even do the voice.
I can't. It's very unique. I mean, he goes berserk. I mean, it really is on another level because you don't even know this woman.
And this is the first time you're hearing that voice in the doll. And the first thing you hear is filthy, it's you filthy bitch,
he calls her a stupid bitch and a filthy
bitch,
slut.
Filthy slut. Wow.
Yes.
Talk about an entrance.
Right. It's crazy the names that he's calling her. Sheriff Brackett was like, they told me to make it memorable, so I'm going to make it memorable. And this is a scene that is like all over social media, and I'm going to try to post it to the Instagram. It's super silly, right? He's really freaking out at this woman, and then I guess because we're going with the assumption that he has grown man strength, he starts attacking her, and it looks really silly because he's a 3-foot tall doll, but she is breaking a sweat trying to keep this doll from beating the shit out of her.
Why didn't she throw him in the fire? She got caught off guard.
Hell yeah, that shit was crazy. Not only is he alive, which is crazy, but he also just called you out your name, and that was wild. He was calling her some really crazy stuff.
What are you talking about? I am Andy Camden.
I was about to say, yo, please keep in fucking mind that this woman is the mom from Seventh Heaven. It just makes it so much more funny. She's not a slut. She's only smoked pot once in her life. She's a preacher's wife. Well, Chucky ends up biting the shit out of her. A horrific bite with his little fucking plastic teeth. And he runs out of the apartment into the night. And I think that the reason she didn't burn him, throw him in the fire, and the reason she's so upset when he runs away is because without the doll, without proof that the doll is alive, she can't help Andy, right?
Right. That makes
And
sense.
so she's upset that she lost him because that's bad. But then how embarrassing is it that this grown-ass woman, couldn't keep a hold of this doll? He escaped in the night. So she rushes over to Detective Norris, who is really just trying to go home after a long day of work. But she tells him all about Chucky being alive and how he was talking without the batteries. She has the batteries in her hand, and she shows him this very severe bite on her arm that Chucky gave her. And this reminded me of you. It's one of those times where it's like he doesn't believe her. He refuses to believe any of this, which is like, okay, I get it. It's fair. But I feel like you don't want to entertain something. You know what I mean? I don't know. Am I being ridiculous, being angry that he doesn't
Are
believe
you
what she's
mad that he
saying?
didn't believe it because he also believed a kid pushed that lady out that 8th-story window?
And that a kid blew up a dilapidated Chicago house with a man inside? He is getting on my nerves.
I should be grateful because he found that criminal.
I know, right? You're going to send him to jail? I don't like it. Well, she's like, well, if you don't believe me, I'm going to figure this shit out on my own. So she decides that she's going to go search downtown Chicago until she finds him. And she's going to start with the peddler that sold Chucky to her. She wants to figure out where the hell did he get this doll. So she finds him in a seedy part of town, and she offers him money to find out where he got the doll. But this was like a pretty dark scene. He doesn't want money. He tries to sexually assault Karen. I was like, that's wild. But luckily, Detective Norris followed her and he saves her. And he then forces the peddler to admit where he got the doll, and he tells him that he took the doll from a torched toy store. And Norris knows exactly the toy store that he's talking about because it's where he killed Charles Lee Ray. He is shook for a moment, and Karen can tell this. She can tell by his reaction. And she asks him, what does that mean to you? Why are you so shook by this information? And he tells Karen that night, Charles Lee Ray died in that toy store, and he knows that because he is the one that killed him. She also asks him, what did he say before he died? And he tells her that he threatened to kill him and his accomplice, Eddie Caputo, before he died. So as Detective Norris is dropping Karen off at home, she tries to implore some reason in him, make him see that Chucky has already killed Eddie Caputo, and he's most likely going to be coming after you next, right? Because he vowed that he would kill you. Detective Norris is like,
This is enough.
he's like, bitch, get your crazy ass out of my damn car. He's like, enough is enough. He can't get her out of his car soon enough. Sure enough, as he's driving, Chucky has been hiding in his back seat. He pops up and he wraps some jumper cables around his neck and he tries to strangle him. But Detective Norris is able to burn Chucky's face with the car's cigarette lighter. Blast from the past, right? Remember those? The cigarette lighters that came with your car? They don't even exist anymore.
That's crazy.
I know. It was a very, very 80s moment. But Chucky is able to feel this burn on his cheek, and it melts the plastic in that area. So Chucky then starts stabbing through the seat with this big ass kitchen knife. He's stabbing through the back of the seat, under the seat, and he's narrowly missing Detective Norris. And believe me, he's trying very hard. Finally, they end up crashing, and Chucky pops up and he says, "Hi, Mickey," before trying to stab him and then scampering around the car, just kind of yelling that Detective Norris can't hurt him, which is not true at all. Detective Norris does end up shooting him, and it hits him, and it does hurt him, which is shocking to him because he didn't believe that this could happen. He is not only hurt, but he's bleeding from where the bullet hit him in the shoulder. So he fucks off because he's like, wow, I wasn't expecting this turn of events. Meanwhile, Karen is going to Charles Lee Ray's old apartment, and it's pretty insane. He has some pretty crazy murals painted all over the walls, but one in particular is of him and this man who is revealed to be his voodoo instructor named John, and it is who taught him how to beat death, Charles Lee Ray. So Detective Norris meets her there, and he says, we have to find this man. I believe this is where he's going to go next, his voodoo instructor. So they team up to go find John. Before they can get there, though, we cut to Voodoo John's apartment, and Chucky is already there, and he's questioning him about why can I feel pain and why do I bleed? And this is when Voodoo John reveals that Chucky, the longer he stays inside this doll, the longer his soul remains inside the doll, he's going to start turning human. The more human the doll will become. So Voodoo John refuses to help Chucky because he calls him an abomination. He says that he's perverted John's teachings for evil. And this is all very admirable, but mistaken, because Chucky thought that this might be the outcome of this conversation. So he pulls out a voodoo doll of John that for some reason John told Charles Lee Ray about, which I think is crazy. Why would you reveal this information to anyone?
Well, I guess they were close because he has a mirror of him in his house.
Yeah, but I can only imagine, based on Chucky's behavior, that Charles Lee Ray was a piece of shit in a man's body, right? Like, how close can you be with a serial killer? But Chucky then tortures John with this voodoo doll. He breaks his leg, he breaks his arm, and he threatens to stab the doll unless John tells him how to get out of the doll's body. So that's when John relents, and he reveals that Chucky must transfer his soul into the first human that he revealed his identity to, his true identity. And of course, that person is Andy, who is 6 years old. Chucky thinks this is hilarious, and he is going to be in a 6-year-old's body again. He can't wait. He's going to find Andy, but not before getting his third on-screen kill. So as he's walking out, he ends up stabbing this effigy of Voodoo John in the chest, and John is left bleeding on the floor. So Karen and Detective Norris arrive to John's shortly after Chucky leaves, and they find Voodoo John dying on the floor. But before dying, John reveals Chucky's plan, and he tells them that in order to kill Chucky, they must strike him through the heart. That's the only way to kill him, because he's practically man now. So his heart is going to be like a man's heart. We cut to the psychiatric hospital where they're holding Andy, and Andy sees that Chucky has arrived, and the poor little baby, he is scared to death. And he's trying to warn his doctors that Chucky is here and he's going to try to kill him. And without anybody noticing, Chucky is able to steal the keys to unlock Andy's room. And sure enough, he comes in with this big ass fucking knife. But Andy is smart, and he puts a pillow under his blanket to make it look like he's still in the bed. And I was like, Andy is a real final boy in this movie. He does the smartest things of anybody in this entire film. But he tricks Chucky and he runs away. Chucky's hot on his heels, and Andy arms himself with a scalpel. He's a smart kid. But then Andy's dumb fucking idiot, stupid idiot fucking doctor comes in, and he takes the scalpel away from Andy, and he's trying to sedate him. But Chucky is there, and he ends up stabbing him in the leg. And this is setting up Chucky's fourth on-screen kill. And this one's actually like pretty brutal. It's definitely the most brutal kill of the movie. When the doctor falls to the ground, Chucky puts this electroshock therapy device on the doctor's head and basically fries his brain. He starts bleeding from his eyes and his mouth. And poor Andy is watching this and he's like, I'm totally fucked. So he ends up escaping and he runs home and he uses the key under the mat to get in. And he barricades his door with a bunch of furniture and he hides in his closet, giving very much Laurie Strode vibes. And he also arms himself with a little bat, like a true final boy. And this scene was very funny. So as Chucky is riding the elevator up, this old couple sees him, and the woman remarks what an ugly doll Chucky is. And then, like, as she walks away, Chucky's like, "Fuck you."
So that, see what I'm saying? Like that like comedy element has always been there. You know, they'll say, I feel like I feel like a lot. I guess I noticed that watching it because I hadn't watched it in a really long time. That all those elements are kind of the same. Like it's really consistent throughout.
I agree. He's always been. I guess it gets
crazier.
Yes, he doesn't talk that much in this movie. When he does talk, it is pretty like out there. We just don't see it enough in this movie. But yeah, you're totally right. Now, in this woman's defense, Chucky is starting to look like shit, but that's because he's starting to look less like the good guy doll and more like a human as he's transforming. And his hairline is even starting to recede. So he's looking pretty rough. But Chucky makes his way into the apartment through the fireplace. And he kind of gets the jump on Andy, who drops his little bat. And then Chucky takes it and he hits him over the head with it, knocking him out. Because he must be strong as fuck. So Chucky wastes no time. And he starts the ritual to transfer his soul into Andy. And thank goodness, Karen and Detective Norris are arriving just in time, just as the storm is brewing outside with all the lightning. Somehow, in this part of the movie, it's pretty crazy from here on out, right? Because how strong can this doll possibly be?
It has to have the strength of a living man. I'm telling you, it has to.
But even if it does have the strength of a living man, it's only 3 feet tall. Detective Norris and Karen
is 6 foot tall.
Are 2 full right. I don't get it. Chucky is able to give Detective Norris a 2-piece and a biscuit, right? He beats the shit out of him. Right. I'm shook. Detective Norris is like left knocked out on the floor, and I'm like, damn. That's really wild to me. So then Karen does the sensible thing, and so she starts shooting Chucky, but it like doesn't stop. Yeah, she's oh god. So he chases her into the living room, and she gets the idea to burn him. She has him pushed into the fireplace, and she's kind of trying to keep him in there with the gate that sits in front of the fireplace. And she's asking Andy to help her light Chucky on fire. And as Andy's coming over with some matches, Chucky tries to turn on the good guy doll charm. And he tells Andy, "We're friends until the end, remember?" To which Andy responds, "This is the end, friend." And I was like, okay, Andy, I see you with your little one-liners. I was like, what a clever little 6-year-old.
Not in my movie.
Not in my movie. That was a comeback that could rival that one. He said, "This is the end, friend."
Because when I asked you to talk, you didn't talk.
Final boy. I asked you to be there for me. I look crazy in front of those people. You had me locked in a psychiatric facility. No, we're not fucking friends. You bitch.
Should have never called me a fat ass Kelly Price.
You should have never called me a fat ass Kelly Price.
Me a fat ass
Shout out
Kelly
to
Price.
Catfish for giving us some wild moments. So at this point, Chucky is very much on fire and burning very badly because he's plastic, right? Just then, Detective Norris's bitch ass wakes up from being a bitch, but he's still rolling around on the floor. He's not really offering any aid. Karen sends Andy to go get a first aid kit to try to treat this flesh wound he has on his leg. And it's at this point that Andy realizes that Chucky's body is not in the spot that they left him in. So then a very burnt, melting Chucky tries to attack Andy, looking insane. Andy runs into the bedroom with his mom and Detective Norris, and there's this point where Karen is trying to hold the door shut, but she went to like
Hard.
the Laurie Strode. She is, but she went to like the Laurie Strode school of like leaning against doors when there's a murderer on the outside. Chucky starts stabbing the door, and I was like, you don't have to lean your whole body against the door. She's very lucky that he didn't stab her in the fucking head.
There is
Why
a
is she
strength
putting...
of a man. I'm telling you.
I get that, but I'm like, can't you just like pull it the other... I don't know. Whatever. She's almost stabbed, but thankfully he kind of leaves, runs to the other door, but she's not quick enough, and he comes in. So none of that even mattered. He gets in the room and he chases them out. Karen then starts shooting Chucky. She shoots his head off. She shoots his arm off. She shoots his leg off. But this fucking Chucky doll is still moving. Now, at this point, I was thinking I could be wrong. I'm just a podcaster. So I'm not purporting to be the smartest person in the world. But didn't Voodoo John tell them specifically, shoot him in the heart? That's all you have to do is shoot
This
him in the
movie
fucking
is
heart.
only 87 minutes. Okay, they had to stretch it as much as they can.
She's shooting every which way but loose and still does not shoot this fucking doll in the heart. But just then, Norris's buddy cop partner, Jack, arrives, and all three of them are telling him, this fucking doll is alive. Don't touch it. It's trying to kill us.
Do
He
not touch
can't,
it.
I mean, it was like the most specific thing he told him. He picks it up, rolling it around. He's like, I don't fucking believe you. At this point, Chucky's body bursts through an AC vent that's behind Jack and just starts to strangle him. It's not just that Chucky has the strength of a man. He has the strength of like a silverback gorilla because nobody can fight. I don't care. Even if he has the strength of a man, at this point, he's legless, armless, headless. How is he giving you a run for your money? I don't...
But you remember at that point, he's like Chucky is talking to his body to tell him to strangle it. So I think it's some
To
kind of
tell
voodoo.
what... It has to be, yes. Chucky's head is directing his body what to do. And basically, he's just like, kill this bitch. Kill them all. So Jack is able to shake him off. So finally, Karen remembers, oh yeah, we're supposed to shoot him in the heart, like that guy told us a million years ago. So Detective Norris shoots...
his dying words.
Right. The literal only directions he gave you. Shoot him in the heart. Detective Norris does. He shoots the burnt little crispy body up and it goes through the heart and it finally kills him. Before he dies, Chucky gives one final, hi, I'm Chucky, wanna play? And it goes from like his Charles Lee Ray voice to like the good guy doll voice. It's like this really elongated, creepy, and he's talking out of this really burnt, melted face. It was a cool shot. And so everybody gets up to leave to take Detective Norris to the hospital. But this, Andy's traumatized and he just keeps looking back at the Chucky doll, his charred remains, which I probably would have too, because I probably would have been like, how do I know for sure this bitch is dead? And so the camera kind of freezes on that frame of Andy looking back at the Chucky doll, and then the end credits start to roll, and that is the end of the movie.
That was very like TV show how it ends. He's like
Right?
he was like, who now do you believe us? Well, who's gonna believe me? Cut.
Right. It's very, very 80s. It has that very 80s feel.
This is a Miller Boyette production.
It could have been an episode of like Miami Vice.
Yes.
These two buddy cops. I mean, it was definitely a wild ride for sure. So the kill count for the movie is Chucky's kill count is just 4, which is not a ton. The Rotten Tomatoes for this movie is a 73% critic and a 65% audience. It has, I know, that's high. It's a lot higher than Terrifier.
I would have thought it would have been even higher.
I thought, so originally when I first pulled up the Rotten Tomatoes, I was shook because I pulled up the 2019 remake first by mistake. And I was like, oh shit, I can't believe this is so low. That one is a lot lower. So I was like, this one, okay, those numbers are still considered like, it's not like the green slime, it's still the good popcorn looking numbers. So I was like, yeah, okay. It has a 6.7 out of 10 with 113,000 reviews, which isn't bad.
No, it's not.
It's not. So, just some fun little facts. So, Chucky's full name, Charles Lee Ray, the director actually got that name by combining the killers Charles Manson, Lee Harvey Oswald, who assassinated JFK, and James Earl Ray, who assassinated Martin Luther King Jr., because I guess he was like, who are the 3 biggest pieces of shit that I can think of to like combine to get a name? And this is the name that he came up with. So, not totally surprising because it seems like every movie always has some kind of silly, crazy fucking controversy. The Chucky films have been accused of inspiring violence in children. That's crazy, right? When the movie was being released outside of the studio on opening night, there were protesters there. I thought that was very crazy.
Why?
I thought that was very crazy because the movie is accused of inspiring violence in children, but it was the opening night, so they didn't even have any basis for this. I guess people were like,
it's a killer doll.
It's a doll. Not a kid. I don't know. I think it's always so crazy what people choose to get offended over. But there was one case, and this is so annoying. One case was linked to the series. It was a gang in Manchester, and they kidnapped and murdered a 16-year-old girl while they tortured her. And during this torture, they forced her to listen to recordings of the gang leader repeating the catchphrase, "I'm Chucky, wanna play?" Which I thought was wild. And so the director, Tom Holland, has always defended the film from these accusations, and he was stating that anybody that watches like this horror movie that could even remotely be influenced to do something, they were already unbalanced to begin with.
Right.
Because obviously. So in an interview with Bloody Disgusting, Don Mancini, the creator and writer for Child's Play, he discussed the potential of a Child's Play film set on a train, which I thought was weird. But he also revealed plans for a crossover film with who do you think? Who do you think?
Oh my
who do you think?
God, how ridiculous is going to be. What, is it Freddy Krueger?
It's Freddy Krueger.
I'm thinking 2 people just talking shit.
That's all that it can be, right? Just two people, just the biggest fucking shit talkers, foul mouthed, zany ass characters. And so he wants it to be named Child's Play on Elm Street. And he's like, the foundation for this crossover film was that in Bride of Chucky, there was like a little Easter egg. Freddy Krueger's bladed glove appeared in the Lockport police evidence room at the beginning of the film. So they're in the same universe. So he's like,
No,
I
man.
think it could work.
It can't.
So his idea is that Chucky will get kind of adopted by a kid that lives on Elm Street. And he was like, when he was talking about it, he was like, well, you know, Chucky is, I guess, going to be kind of tormenting that kid. And he's like, Chucky is dreams because he's like still a man, right? He's like, Freddy Krueger, I think, is going to like find himself in Chucky's dreams. And then they're going to like kind of peep each other and be like, oh shit, I'm a killer too. But then, of course, they're going to realize that Elm Street isn't big enough for the both of them, and then they're going to bump heads.
He still want to do this?
Dante, I think this interview was recent. I think this is something that he is dying to happen. But then, wait, so he wants to do that, but then remember, he just said that he also wants to do a crossover with Megan.
What, he want like a Marvel universe?
Of zany, crazy serial killers?
Y'all need to leave Freddy out of this. If you want to do some doll stuff, that's fine. Leave Freddy out of this. Freddy busy.
Freddy has his own shit going on. He's shopping around, trying to avoid Blumhouse like the plague.
He's like, just skipping call. Freddy, we got David Gordon Green on line 1. I'm at lunch still. But you been at lunch for 2 weeks. I'm still at lunch. We eating good over here. Good.
We eating good over here.
we good.
Wait, so speaking of David Gordon Green, you remember that we posted that poll on social media on Instagram. We were like, who would you rather see direct
Freddy,
like do a Nightmare on Elm Street reboot, Rob Zombie or David Gordon Green? And Rob Zombie won that. And I was like, damn, do other people feel like we do about David Gordon Green? I don't want to see him touch
I don't want to see anybody touch a Freddy movie, but I really don't want another like trilogy of movies.
Not everything has to be a goddamn trilogy.
Like
David Gordon Green.
I don't want another trilogy, and honestly, I don't want another requel. I want that. I don't want that. I feel like even as people say like Freddy movies, as we talk about Child's Play, like but to link it back, even like with Child's Play, it's the same way with Freddy. Like those sequels are like bananas, but you know, for the most part, they just follow a story. You know, like the Chucky storyline, I don't follow it, but it's been going on consistently. And even though there was a remake, that's a different timeline. Like Chucky has consistently been putting out material since '88.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Absolutely.
So the same thing with like Freddy. It's like we haven't seen a real Freddy movie since since Nightmare 6, and then there was New Nightmare and Freddy vs. Jason, and then there was a remake. But I ain't trying to get another origin story. I don't want them to do no kind of requel. Y'all can do Freddy 7. Just straight up, like if it ain't Freddy 7, I kind of like I don't want it.
Well, it's not going to be, because people look down on the sequels. But maybe the movie we get will be a Child's Play on Elm Street.
I'm gonna go ahead and take a different bus that day.
Okay, you're gonna leave the chat on this one.
I don't need to get off on Elm Street. I'm good. So
one last little fact. So there was a line of dolls aimed at boys in the 1980s, and they were called the My Buddy dolls. And they served as the original inspiration for the Good Guy doll in Child's Play. And after the movie came out, that line never recovered. Hasbro had to discontinue the doll like before the 90s, and then Play School took over production, but they had to literally change everything, the likeness, the clothing, everything, because people were like, I'm not bringing that shit in my house.
You got the game messed up.
Mm-mm. So that's all I have for fun facts. So what do you think? Hit or miss on this one?
So when I went into it, I don't really care for the Child Play series. But in terms of just like a fun 80s movie, it's fine.
It
I
is
think it's something
fun.
you should see.
It's super short.
You know, it's like it's short too. That's the thing. That's the best part about it, to be honest.
Right.
Is that it's not like a long movie. It's not a whole bunch of lore.
It doesn't
It's
drag.
like you can just watch it and just kind of it doesn't drag. You know?
Yeah, you could just put it on.
Yeah. And then watch it, and it's kind of like, okay, you can follow along, and it's good.
Right.
So
I appreciated that. So I think it's a hit.
I did too.
I felt a lot more fondly about it watching it this time than I remembered feeling about it, because I didn't used to like it. No offense.
You didn't care for it?
No, because I do really like Bride of Chucky. It's one of those movies that I can just watch on repeat, and I know that sounds really crazy, but I just really, really like that movie. I love Jennifer Tilly. Love her. I think she was a perfect cast in that movie. I know that I've seen some clips of her from the Chucky show too. I think she's great. I just didn't, it's hard for me to get into the mindset sometimes that this doll can be taken seriously.
I understand that.
Like, if I'm going to watch a movie with a killer, I want to feel scared. You know what I mean? Like, when I feel like when you watch a horror movie, the scary thing is there's some element of like, well, could that happen to me? You know what I mean? Like, Michael Myers is a real guy. You're like, could that happen to me? You know, it's just like it's like I can only suspend my disbelief so much. And it's hard for me to think that I would not be able to lock a 3 foot tall. I have to feel what the strength is like.
That's what I'm saying. I promise you, it has to be. I mean, it has to be that he has the strength of a man. That has to be part of the voodoo.
Because he was working those people.
They were stressed.
Detective Norris got his ass beat. How embarrassing.
He was a 6-foot man.
Right. I mean, he's like a pretty big guy. I don't get it. But yeah, that's my thing. I like the movie. It's a fun movie to watch. It's just, I'm not scared.
I didn't realize it until like we had talked about it before in terms of Detective Norris being Chris Sarandon. And I know you're not a fan of Fright Night.
I'm not. Mm-mm.
And he's Fright Night.
He's Fright Night, yeah. He's like the big bad. I just really don't. That movie, it's so bad. I told you that movie made me create a Rotten Tomatoes account, right? So I could talk about how bad it was. That's how much I hated that movie. But yeah, Chris Sarandon's in that. So that's fun.
Overall, a good movie. Check it out.
Yeah. It's quick. You have the time. Okay.
87 minutes.
That's nothing.
Nothing.
So, I guess we can talk about the socials.
Yes. Yes, we can talk about it. So let's talk about them. Okay, so we have Instagram, Facebook, we have YouTube.
And we've been getting some views on YouTube. So thank you to anybody watching on YouTube.
Which is nice. Thank you. You too.
We appreciate it.
Because anytime one of us see a view, we're always like, is it the other one of
We
us
literally
who watched
text
it?
each other and we're like, did you watch that? Did you watch that on YouTube? I just cannot believe
It's the other
people
thing.
are finding us on YouTube. But it is there.
We're like, wow, it's there. It's awesome. It's I don't know. We're just really very, 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 very happy with the support. You know,
We are. We are, you guys. I mean, I just really can't say it enough. I mean, I'm very, very blown away. And hopefully you guys stick with us. If you ever want to have a movie covered, you know, we have a schedule, but we are more than willing to take recommendations, please. I would love to hear from you guys what you like, what you don't like. But yeah, on all the socials, we are. Did you get that on film? You can message us.
100%.
We're always around, very
Yeah,
active.
definitely.
So yeah, I guess that's it.
Thank you again, and
Bye.